Howdy mates, good late morning. How are we all doing? It is Sunday, November 28th, 2021. I'm over at the Alligator Creek Preserve near Punta Gorda. It's actually also the location of the Charlotte Harbor Environmental Center, a nonprofit organization who I proudly support and am also a volunteer for. So as part of this video, I want to discuss a native plant that I found while I was walking along these Pine Flatwoods. So if you look real closely, you may notice a distinctive flower right here that appears in colonies. This is actually something called a Polygala lutea, also known as the Orange Milkwort. Now, it goes by a couple of different names. So, one being Orange Milkwort, or even Yellow Milkwort as well. It goes by a couple of separate names. Now, what's neat about this flower is, as you can see, the sepals, which are the lower leaves, they're a bit dense. So, with that being said, they are a bit more harder for any other pollinators to access. But then, when you get towards the top here, this is the actual bloom itself, the real flower. Oh, hold on a second, you guys. Alrighty, pardon my interruption, but I was actually talking to a group of a mother and a couple of her kids. So, going back to what I was talking about, so the Orange Milkwort, when you look towards the top here, this is the actual entire bloom. And they call this type of arrangement called a racheme. I don't know the exact pronunciation, but essentially it's one large bundle. Now, what's particularly neat about this plant is they contain seeds, but they are within a capsule called a Elaisomes, which basically means the seed is surrounded by like a protein-like substance, which is indeed edible. Now, with that being in mind, you may be wondering like what really feeds on it. So, the most common pollinator for this particular plant are ants. Now, these flowers in particular, I don't see any ants on them right now. But what they usually do is they'll take the seed that contains that elaisom, they'll actually eat around the seed, and then they'll disperse it, which will allow it to spread to other areas. So like you could see more down there. That is the work of ants. So the ants really are marching, according to Dave Matthews. Now, mentioning that part, is it really useful for us? Well, actually, the good news is, it really is effective. As it turns out, the Seminole tribes, they've actually used this flower as a decoction in a tea. And it's actually been found to help alleviate heart palpitations. So for those of you who aren't really sure what that is, heart palpitations refer to like abnormal heartbeats, or it feels like it's beating faster than usual, even though there's really no underlying disease associated with it. And then it can also help with any swollen parts of your body, like especially if it came from a wound, for example. So I mean, medicinally speaking, this plant is very useful. Now, Since it's in South Florida, this can basically bloom as early as March and even going into the late fall. I mean, you figure now we're getting into December. But they have basically reached about the max height, some of these plants. They really don't grow as large, honestly, in terms of height. But now, to mention it, in the actual name of the plant, so like when I was mentioning polygala, that's like the genus of the plant. That's actually derived from Latin, meaning many milk. Because, as part of the name, it was actually believed, according to history, that the more orange milkwort you had, like in a pasture of cows, the better the milk production would be. So that's how it really gets that name part of it of milkwort. But then, when you get to the species specifically of lutea, that actually means yellow in the Latin language. Because sometimes, despite it even being orange, sometimes it will actually have a bit of a yellow appearance. So like, for example, you go to this one right here. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but like towards the top, you can definitely see that it has an orange. But then when you get a bit lower, it has a bit more of that yellow appearance. So that's really how it gets its name. It's like yellow milk. To keep it simple, right? Many yellow milk. Now, in terms of whether it actually helped with milk production, it's not really known that much. It could just be a simple belief. Because sometimes that happens. Like, there might be a belief about a particular plant, like according to folktale, but it may not be scientifically proven either. But yeah, actually, so that wraps up for the plant. But we're actually along the Three Lakes Trail. I actually enjoy this one. This is probably one of my favorite trails at this preserve. And I say that because it eventually winds up going around some estuaries. Because since we are at the Charlotte Harbor Environmental Center, we're getting a bit closer to the Charlotte Harbor. So alrighty, I think that is a good wrap up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned something new. It is indeed a native plant. And the thing is too, it's usually a bit harder to remove once it's established because it has an extensive taproot that goes underground. So usually it's best to grow it from the actual seed. So keep that in mind. But I'm sure like native nurseries around here sell it. So, alright you guys, take care, enjoy your Sunday, and Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care folks, see ya.